So what does it mean when I'm talking about how does TV sell itself? Is it brand building? Is it mid-funnel, bottom funnel? Is it outcomes? Is it video? Is it impression-based? It's all going that way. You probably noticed. Like, if you'd have thought about it last year, to see how many broadcasters are actually moving to a sort of impression-based model, it's quite remarkable how quickly that change has occurred. But what we want to talk about today is how does TV win that subjective battle of what marketing science says, so what brands should be doing, versus what is actually happening. So obviously TV's big screen, sound on, 100% viewability, brand safe, transparent, that's all great. But is it enough? That's the question. Apparently, according to my next speaker, despite all this, he believes TV is losing the subjective battle, and all that is not enough. So to hear how to shape this session, tell us how TV is viewed by clients, please, ladies and gentlemen, give a massive hand to Brian Wieser, who's going to disappoint you all, saying that TV is not wanted by buyers. Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Wieser. Yeah, pick a seat.
I'm here to disappoint you all. I love that.
Yeah, I know. What a great intro, hey?
Breaking hearts since 1974.
Yeah, and I know what you're thinking, Europeans. You're like, oh, he's American, but he actually knows what he's talking about. Yeah.
And yeah, no, Canadian, and I got this one too.
This is true. This is true. He is Canadian. Actually, we live about 6 hours?
Yeah, about
6 hour apart. Yeah.
Yeah. He lives in the same province I grew up in. Or was born in.
So I'm actually Canadian. I live in Canada.
Yeah, you thought he was British.
Yeah, exactly. And you live in Portland, right?
Portland, Oregon.
But the point I want to make there is that you actually collect data and understand the global market.
US focused, globally informed.
Okay, that's your line. And you're just left Group M, so you've gone from the dark side to the light side now?
Yeah, you could call it the light side. I felt I was in the light side of the dark side, if there was a dark side.
Okay, that's like the analytics side, the sort of data side, and all that sort of stuff. All right, so you believe buyers, and I know that your opinions are data-driven, don't want telly. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to put it. The reality is that there's this subjective battle, as you put forward, that TV has been losing. But frankly, TV's not the only one. I was always amused by the Mary Meeker slides. Who's seen those slides? Of course, everyone, right? Every time there'd be this slide about the mismatch of time and money, right? And it would just be obvious then that money would go into digital because of the time-money mismatch. To which I would always retort, what about radio? Like, that radio mismatch is pretty big too. You're not talking about that one. And what about the fact that the time spent metrics on anything print are basically non-existent to unreliable if they do exist? How about direct mail? How's that time-money mismatch going? Does that have anything to do with anything? No, it doesn't. It didn't. The fallacy was all wrong. That's meant to be funny. But anyways. Yeah. And so it's always been the case that there's a subjective element around why a medium works or doesn't work in terms of capturing budget share. Marketers buy into a vision about what a medium can do, and they can organize their activities around it. All of you TV-related buyers, sellers, TV-focused people, ask yourselves the question, why radio is in a terrible position and will never grow again? Ask yourselves why direct mail...
Why will it never grow again? That's a bit negative.
Yeah, well, it's the reality.
It might do.
No.
Okay.
Won't. No, but the bigger point is that there's so many different elements behind it. And I pity the radio industry in a sense. I come from radio, college radio at least. So I have great sympathy for it. But it's the idea that marketers don't even think about it for the most part, despite whatever effectiveness studies are out there. They don't organize their businesses around the way that radio is organized, typically. They don't organize at a local level the way radio is. They don't develop creative campaigns to maximize what radio can do. Understandably, because there's something better than radio for most goals that they have. Historically, for the last few decades, television. And some of this is this subjective choice. I mean, marketers could choose to organize their efforts around a different medium, radio, direct mail, or something else. It might actually be more effective, but that's not the point. It's not about what's effective necessarily.
This industry is really good at talking about effectiveness. Are we wasting our time then? Is that what you're saying?
You know, my favorite line is, torture data long enough, it'll tell you anything you want it to.
Yeah.
I think that the pursuit of effectiveness is important, of course. But I think we also have to be mindful that sometimes we're kind of making it up. Like the very fact that you choose a time horizon, say a year, well, maybe that's not the right, for a model, maybe that's not the right time horizon. Maybe it's 5 years. Maybe it's really 100. Like, what is the right time horizon? That by itself is a subjective choice, right? Any model, a financial model, a business model, performance model, there are subjective choices embedded. And we have to acknowledge that that's true. Taking a step back, there's lots of reasons why marketers can have intuition about what they should do to drive their business. That intuition should actually be leading the way. Having an insight, a perspective about why a brand should grow in a certain way, why certain media should be the centerpiece of a campaign. If it's intuition-led, that's great. And then once you've made those decisions, fine, use data to optimize inside of the tactical choices. But I think we are kind of kidding ourselves if we think that at a high level, math really drives everything.
So do marketers believe, in your view, that other media is more effective? Or do they need to be seen to be spending on these channels?
This is a really good point. I think that we definitely see the case that marketers want to be seen to be spending money on digital. To be sure, digital and retail media in particular lets marketers check a lot of boxes. It allows them to claim they're pursuing performance. It seems to be credible. And so you end up with CEOs of companies, like the Coca-Cola company, for example. CEO on the last earnings call was talking about how they're 60% digital.
That's crazy, isn't it?
It's a big number. Well, again, you could argue that...
I wonder how they're defining digital as well, because that could mean CTV and other stuff.
But there are many large brand owners that are in that kind of range, 60, 70% of digital. Forget about television. It's just digital platforms. Because it allows them to justify their choices. It's easier to build more credible models that more credibly connect a spend and an outcome.
Yeah.
And there's work that I did. Some of you will have seen with Sim, which we talked about. The future of trading currency and measurement currency and trading. And in this research going into it, everyone was just talking about outcomes. Sometimes we're going to define outcomes as best as we can with whatever data is available to us to define an outcome as having been positive for a given amount of spend. In digital, it's just a lot easier to do that, independent of what actually builds a brand.
Yeah. So what do marketers want? What can TV do about this? Actually, just quick yes, no. Do you think TV's got a sort of unfashionable problem? Is it like a bit of a...
Connected TV has a more fashionable element, for sure. Traditional linear TV, unfashionable, more so.
Okay. So what can TV do about this sort of perception issue, about this sort of like this subjective stuff?
Well, yeah, there's a few things I think. And so to be clear, I think television can grow, just not the way that most television sellers define it today.
Right.
And the opportunities, as I see it, there are 3 pathways for growth for any one seller of TV-related ad inventory. Path 1 is take share from everyone else. So buy up as many rights as you can and just crush everyone inside of a declining medium. And you'll grow for a while, and then you won't. But that's one path. Second path is try to encourage the industry to look at video as holistically as possible. And that really means embracing the likes of YouTube and TikTok. And, whenever I hear sellers of TV advertising saying, well, cats on skateboards are not comparable to, whatever premier top-tier drama, they spend nothing on content, to which I retort, do you know how much those cats cost? It's actually quite expensive. YouTube spends like $20 billion a year on content. It's not going nowhere. But more to point, it doesn't matter if you think subjectively it's lower quality content. That's beside the point. It's video. TikTok, same deal. TikTok, I think, doesn't want to be included in the TV universe. They're happy to be off on their own, not be dragged down, if you will, by TV. But anytime I hear trade associations or anyone in the TV ecosystem trying to separate themselves from YouTube off the TV set, let alone on it, and TikTok, and say that's not comparable, it's different quality, shouldn't be the same universe.
You don't like that discussion?
Well, I'm indifferent. I don't have a vested interest, but I'm saying that's a self-damaging statement. If you want to grow your business, it's better to have a small share of a bigger pool, one that's growing. I don't think the industry is embracing that idea at all. But if I were in the TV sales business, I'd be lassoing TikTok and pulling them in and saying, you're part of us.
They are trying to do that. There's just not very many proof points that once you show your content on those devices that they're actually coming back to telly. And that's where you kind of need them.
I'm not talking about them coming back to telly.
You don't want them coming back to telly?
No, that's not the point. I'm saying if you define the total video
This is a TV event. We want them back on telly. Who invited you?
You did.
Yeah.
No. No, but the important point is that it's better to define this universe of video as broadly as possible.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a growing medium that you're fighting for a growing share of. And yes, if the quality actually matters, if the cat on skateboard is low quality and it's not effective, fine, it's going to be priced appropriately. And maybe that means that on free-to-air broadcast TV, there need to be more cats on skateboards. I don't know. Okay. But I think it's better to create one universe of video. That will be helpful. The third path that is unlikely to occur, but I think would actually be the most durable, is that sellers of television need to become platforms. They need to jettison the idea of television altogether. Sorry, can we pull up the TV?
Yeah.
Just
Do I need a different name for a conference?
No, but in all seriousness, it's this idea that I think that one of the great ideas that occurred to me was when Meta was launching Threads, and put aside that they didn't execute on that as well as they could have, I think. But basically, they were going to create like a pure text-based product if it was executed the way it should have been. And they have a video-based product, and theoretically, you can imagine an audio product. Certainly inside of Google, YouTube is the biggest audio platform out there. They have the biggest video platform. They have text platforms. Nobody cares, I don't think, as a marketer, what the medium is, whether it's video or audio or text. Because we're now in an era, especially with generative AI-based buying, where I think marketers are just going to look for performance wherever they can find it, completely indifferent to what the format is.
Okay, 2 questions, and you've only got 1-word answer for each one. So there's 2 words in total. Got that? First one is, if they do go down that route, will brands cease to exist and cease to grow in the way they've done it in the past? Brands, will they matter in the future? Yes, no?
Less.
Second one, Peter Field said, any sensible marketer is crazy to leave TV. Agree or disagree?
Probably.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Wieser. Let's give him a massive round of applause.
Thank you.
Okay. Right.